live from the studios of LA Talk Live in sunny Los Angeles, California. This is Alina's Lifestyles and More, and I'm your host, Alina. We're here to talk about fitness, beauty, health, nutrition, today art and spirituality and more every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Alina's Lifestyles and More on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
Once in a lullaby, there's a
Welcome back to Alina's Lifestyles and More. Today is going to be really fun. I have Dr. Robby, the Hollywood artist, back in the studio, and he's brought some amazing guests. I actually have been to this museum many times. It's one of my favorite. And I'm really excited to have them on the show, have Dr. Robby back. We have the Craft and Folk Art Museum, and it's right across from LACMA. It's very easy to find. Dr. Robby is now on the board, which I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Robby, take over.
Okay, so I've known this museum for a long time. Thank you. I discovered it years ago when I went once to the LACMA and I just didn't find parking place, and I went around and suddenly I see this museum, and I went in and it was amazing. I became a member, and later on, this year I became a board member. What I felt really good in that museum, and that's what I want to tell you about. I was born in Israel, and my father's side of the family is from France, and I used to go to France a lot, and I'm still very francophone. I love France. And one of the things at the museum in France are just unbelievable, but one of the things in the small towns in France, they had different type of museum. And when I went to the Craft and Folk Museum, I felt like it was in France, because what happens is in Paris, they have the biggest museum, that they have art from all over, from the best artists all over. However, in the small towns, they don't want to try to compete with the Louvre or with the Orangerie or with all the big museums. So they are more in the small museum, are more like subject museum. They have a museum for glass, they have a museum for local artists, they have a museum for craft. So in every little town that you go, and you go to the local museum, you feel like at home, and you see the local artists that are creating now different kind of art or craft or folk or different kind of emphasis on some kind of art. And that's what I love in the small town. I love the small towns for their cuisine and for their little museum. And when I first came to the Folk and Craft Museum, I said, this is like a little museum in France. And it felt so homey. So I started coming there regularly for every show. I became a member. And then this year, they had a special project for the little house that they were auctioning for fundraising for the museum, and it looks so nice, and I came to see it, and I told some of the artists that are working in the Hollywood Sculpture Garden, where I have my sculpture garden in the Hollywood Hills, about it, and they all got very excited. We came there, and several of these artists decided to donate some of their art for the little house that was auctioned all together.
You were here right before that on the show. I just now put it together.
Exactly. So Angel put and Sean gave a donation for it. And this is how I started getting involved with it. And it really looked nice. I made Joseph, and then I made Richard that were on the board. And I said, you know what? This is something I want to do in my life, to become part of this museum, because it really felt like home. And this is how my involvement with the Art and Folk Museum started. And now I'm really proud to be part of it, to be on the board of it. And every person there is so nice, from the director to the people that we have here, to the people on the board. We have Sonia and we have Richard. And we will let them all talk and tell you a little bit about the museum. We will also tell you about the special event that they have. They have wonderful workshop in the museum, and they're starting a biennial ceramic art, and they have the wonderful gala that will be October 14th, that everyone is invited, and Sonia and Richard will tell you more. And they have trips in. We'll start with Sonia to tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll come back and we'll ask more questions. So Sonia, can you tell us a little bit about your museum?
Sure, I'm happy to, and thank you so much for having me here today, Robby. Your story is so heartfelt. Your relationship to the museum and your love for it. Thank you so much for that. The Craft and Folk Art Museum is over 50 years old now, and we're located on Museum Row on Wilshire Boulevard, just south, across the street from the tar pits. And, our goal is to really explore the leading edge of craft, art, and design. And we've been doing that by showing artists of all backgrounds, whether they're emerging or established, really focusing on local artists, but we're also looking at artists who have a national, international scope. And we have quite a few exciting events and programs and exhibitions that are coming up this season.
Tell us more about them.
Sure. The first of which is our exhibition called The U.S.-Mexico Border, Place, Imagination, and Possibility. That show is a large group exhibition. We have over 40 artists whose works are going to be featured in it in all different kinds of mediums and materials. And the exhibition is funded and is part of the Getty Foundation's initiative called Pacific Standard Time, LALA. Now, the LALA stands for Los Angeles and Latin America. And so our exhibition at the Craft and Folk Art Museum is one of only 70 exhibitions that are going to be taking place all over Southern California, from Santa Barbara to Palm Springs, all the way down to San Diego. So it's really a far-reaching initiative, and it's going to include art from pre-Columbian times all the way to contemporary times, looking at identity, conceptual art, all different kinds of mediums, all different kinds of vantage points.
And how often do you change your exhibits?
Oh, that's a good question. Our exhibitions change about every 4 months. And, this exhibition is special because the exhibition will take over the entire museum. So we do have 2 gallery spaces, as well as some gallery, some showcasing opportunities downstairs. But this one exhibition will take up the entire museum.
That's unusual for you.
Yes, yes. We are an intimate museum, and we're very excited about this particular exhibition because it is part of this larger regional initiative. We received major funding from the Getty Foundation, and we have our opening on Saturday, September 9th.
Oh, that's what I saw on your website.
Yes. So we're happy to welcome everybody to come out to our reception on Saturday, September 9th from 6:30 to 9.
Wow, that'll be fun.
the
That's going to be
reception-
crowded.
Yeah, they're really
I hope
nice.
it'll be
They
crowded.
It
started
will
to
be
the-
crowded.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have a big following. People
We're-
have been coming there for years. I mean, they know about it from taking your classes. I know you still do things with children,
We do.
you know,
we do.
so you got families all coming. I mean, you're very family oriented,
We are, and we actually,
especially now for back to school.
we actually operate more than 90 programs a year. So we're very, very busy. We have a lot of hands-on programs, many of which are taught by professional artists and makers and designers. And we also have seasonal sales and things like that. Lots of different
The
ways
store
for
is a
people to
wonderful
get
store there.
involved.
They have a really very unique things there.
Yeah, and you
if
can
become
see
a
it
member,
online, too.
Yeah, and if you become a member of the museum, you get a 10% discount.
That's right. Thank you for
Yeah.
plugging that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to become a member, isn't
It's
it?
very easy.
You just
It's
sign
very
up?
Easy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value to our memberships too. You get lots of free workshops, 24 free workshops a year for becoming a member.
Can
Very
you
good.
can you quote the price on the show, or
Sure. Our individual memberships start at $60 a piece.
a year?
Yeah,
That's
which
not
is
bad.
very nice.
That's what I wanted people to know, because that it's very reasonable.
It is.
You know, because
it is.
sometimes when you're talking or they're at work, the audience is, working and listening. So, sometimes it's important to let them know that they get they can join a museum and have so much available
Oh yes,
for a very low fee.
Even the basic individual membership does include 24 free workshops, and that's more than
That's a lot.
That's more than a $200 value. So
Yes.
for $60, it's
Yeah.
quite nice.
Well, it's $60 minimum. If they want to give more, they can give more.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're not going to turn it
Naturally.
down, Dr.
They
Robby.
will not turn down. The same thing is that for the gala, there is a price for the ticket. But if you
Yes.
want to pay more, you're more than welcome. And you know that you will do a good cause for
Yes, and we do have an upcoming annual fundraising gala, and I will let Rich Erickson, our board chair, tell you a little bit about our gala coming
Okay,
up.
but before I let you go off the mic and turn it over to Rich, what is your position and what is your background?
Oh, sure. Thank you. My position at the museum is development manager, and my background is in art history, looking at modern and contemporary art by women artists and artists of color, and looking at issues of immigration and diaspora and identity.
So do you help bring in the exhibits?
I do not. I work on fundraising.
Okay.
And one of the things I love about the job is working closely with our trustees who govern the museum, and also helping to really champion the museum out in the community, which is very fulfilling and rewarding for me.
Very
Okay,
good.
now we can put
We'll go to
to
Richard.
Rich. Rich.
Yeah, Rich, that is a board member and actually
Dr. Robby, talking
and
to your
very
mic.
enthusiastic board member. Put so much of his life into it, and he
Yes.
always very, very, very involved. And he will tell us more about the gala event and about what he
You got to
thinks
keep
about the
talking into
museum.
the mic. We
Yeah,
can't
about the
hear you.
museum. I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Robby, and it's great. It's great to hear Robby's tale about starting to come to the museum, enjoying it, and really having it a special place. When I moved to Los Angeles in 1985, I've lived close to the museum my whole time here. My daughter was 6, and we'd go to the CAFAM Sunday night storyteller nights, and we had a great time and would always have a little food. But over the years, I've shopped at the store. I always see the exhibitions. And like anything, like Robby, you suddenly grow more attached. In 2010, I joined the board, working with our new executive director, Suzanne Iskin, who's done a fabulous job. We talked a bit about membership, and that's grown consistently year to year. We've also talked about people we service in the broader Los Angeles, but in 2010, we had 12,000 people came to the museum. Now we're doing over 35,000 people. It is an intimate space. We think it's the gem of Museum Row. We have the outside garishly painted. It's fabulous. The Artist Shrine helped us with that, and so you can't miss us. But we're very excited to have people come. We have great arts programs. Our arts programs serve young children all the way up to people my age, and I'm 70, so 71. So it's really great. Thursday nights is the craft night, and there's nothing like about 80 to 100 people out in the courtyard drinking beer and making craft. And
What kind of crafts? Anything?
Well, there's always a theme to what it is.
Okay.
And many times, a year ago, we had the artist Gronk, who's a very famous Chicano artist, had a fabulous show, and he taught a a night on making masks, and it was just fabulous to see what online. You go online, you see it. We had a painting on black velour cloth. Like, really?
Wow.
I'm going, but it was unbelievably fun. There's many different aspects to it. Oftentimes, what I find interesting too is you have a fabric show perhaps up in the gallery, and guess what? The artist who is in this show of making fabrics will come in and teach a class. So you'll see kids making fabric and all kinds of different. So it's very relatable training.
But you don't have to
good.
be an artist. I mean,
We're all artists, right?
I mean, we're all artists.
We're all
We
artists,
all can. We're all artists.
I'm a trained civil engineer, but I love being around artists. I love the opportunity to meet artists, which, in addition to the 90 art making programs, we have probably another 60 to 70 art talks, poetry talks, performances in our spaces that really enliven the whole environment of CAFAM. So it's a very active place. Sometimes I think we're bursting at the seams.
There is
really
no room
wonderful.
to really grow there either, is there? I mean,
We have some small opportunities, but yes,
Yeah,
good
I mean,
observation.
Yeah. You don't want it to grow too big. You want it to keep it intimate. You could probably open another location.
That's what the board. You have to join the board, Elena, and
Okay.
help us with our strategy to grow. but I mean, that's what. And again, later this year, the board is going to probably launch on helping with the strategic direction. The street is changing. The subway, LACMA has a huge addition coming up, and again, there's lots of great thoughts to consider about how do you continue doing what we do better, and how do we maybe move it around the city. So,
Very good. So, very good, excellent. So, I have a question for you, and there is a reason for. What is my favorite color?
Blue.
Blue, exactly. So my bedroom is all blue. All the blinds in my bedroom are blue. But I am very colorful, and I paint in a lot of colors. But certain things that are really meaningful for me, I do in blue. So when I joined the museum, I decided to do a whole blue outfit. So I did this hat first. That I did for a CAFAM in blue. I did a shirt matching in blue, and I did a.
Now I know why you did
and
that. I
yes,
was there while you were
yeah,
making it.
Yes, and here I brought like one of the painting that I did in blue, and I wrote certain things on this painting about creative people. That a lot of the people who come to this museum are like these creative people, and I wrote down first of all the painting is all blue. Am I showing it right here to the? Yes, I'm showing it right to the camera. So I wrote creative people are people that are easily bored. They're risk taker. They color outside the line, think with their heart, make lots of mistake, hate the rules, work independently, change their mind a lot, have a reputation for being eccentric. So this is me and a lot of people that are in the museum around me. I wrote also on this blue painting, which I did long time ago, but I thought to bring all the blue together. Earth without art is And I wrote, stop thinking too much right now. Know what you want and just go there. And so I wrote certain things that I like on this painting, and I did it all in blue. So I thought it will be a good opportunity to show this blue painting when I'm here at the with the blue. But I paint according to color. We don't like to be politics.
No
But
politics.
what did I paint after the election? In what
Red.
color? It was red because it was like blood pouring out. It was madness, etc. So I have few painting of only red that I
Yeah, I
did.
knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I trained Dr. Robby, so I knew when he finally started painting black and blue, he was calmed down.
Yeah, but it was like
But
after
yeah,
the
no
election.
politics on my
Yeah.
show. For 90 minutes,
yeah.
people can get away
It's just the
from
color.
it and talk
Yeah.
art and
Yeah.
talk health, fitness, anything but politics. We need to get away from that
So
for
we want
a
to
few
ask,
hours every day.
To ask more. Let's go back to Sonia and ask her more. She's the
Dr.
ambassador.
Robbie, we
Yeah.
can't hear a word you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we want to go back to Sonia and ask her. She's actually the ambassador of the museum. So tell her, being like the ambassador of museum, what do you want to convey about that?
I would like to. I just want to let people know that the museum is there for them. It's an opportunity to see art and to make art right there on Museum Row. We've been there for more than 50 years, and we hope that more people will learn about what we're doing and about the value of what we contribute to the arts community in Los Angeles.
Okay, I'm going to just stop you for a
Yeah.
sec. What are your hours?
Our hours
You know,
are...
we need that's important. So,
Sure.
you know, people that are thinking about maybe coming,
Definitely.
they'll know.
Yes, our hours are 11 to 5, Tuesday through Thursday, and it's 11 to 6 on Saturdays and Sundays. So the one day that we're closed is Monday. And I also wanted to talk a little bit today about some other activities that we have going on.
Oh, good.
One of the things that we've started recently, our program is 1 year old, is our travel program. And we have a couple of trips coming up soon. They follow in line with our upcoming exhibition focusing on the U.S.-Mexico border. So at the end of October, on Saturday, October 28th, we are taking a trip to Tijuana, and we're looking at galleries, artist studios, as well as wineries. So it should be a wonderful...
Are you going by bus?
We are. So everyone meets in San Diego, and then we take a bus across the border, and we're going to do a visit of studios and galleries, as well as
And is it
wineries.
just a day trip?
It's a day trip.
Okay.
Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if any of your listeners are interested in joining us, they're welcome to contact me directly, and I will set them up. And
And they can contact you through the website,
they
right?
can contact me through the website. Yes.
Give out the website.
The website is www.cafam.org, and CAFAM stands for Craft and Folk Art Museum.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I'm not sure I'll be able, I told Sonia before, because there is a sculpture conference in Kansas that I want to attend that weekend. And then there is another show in Chicago in the beginning of November. But it's wonderful. It means I've done a cross-cultural exchange with artists from Mexico. So we've been there to meet certain artists in Tijuana and Rosarito. And really wonderful art. And there is a lot of creativity. You see artists that don't have the means so much to create, and what they create with less means, and it's really very, very nice. So it will be a wonderful experience to go on this trip, and as we say, everyone is invited. Yes.
Okay, so what else is coming up?
Well, our big event that's coming up is going to be on Saturday, October 14th, and that's our big annual fundraising gala. We call that Craft Affair. And that's a wonderful cocktail party that we have with upper level donors and members of the public are also welcome to attend. We're going to have a cocktail reception with a signature drink that also goes along with our Pacific Standard Time exhibition. So the menu and the beverages will also be Latin inspired, and we'll have a silent auction that's full of art and objects and experiences for people to collect and bid on. And that's going to be on Saturday, October 14th from 6 to 9 p.m.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your big event.
That's our
Yes.
big event, and we're incredibly proud and humbled that we are going to be honoring Betty Saar, who is a legendary LA-based African-American artist. She is greatly revered and respected at the Craft and Folk Art Museum, and we just closed a solo show of her washboard assemblages at the museum, and we're very pleased to be recognizing her this year as our gala honoree.
Yeah, some of the pictures, the people who watch it on TV that Richard have been showing are from the last show of Betty Sars. So it's really interesting, and we did meet her in the last event that we had at Michael. So maybe you'll tell us more about the events that we have, Richard.
Well, again, it seems like the calendar moves all the time. We rotate shows. As we talked about, we rotate shows 3 times a year through our exhibition. So right now we're in install, so it's kind of a crazy mess there. The big opening will be the night of Saturday, September 9th. I
Yes.
confused days.
Yeah,
And then the gala. The trip to Tijuana at the end of October will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then actually we have another travel trip that's already sold out, which is to Mexico City, which is going to be in March. But there's always something going on. There's lots of art making. There's artist talks. There's things to do. One thing Sonia forgot to mention in the opening is Sundays are free. So it's free Sunday. So if you just want to come and look and test us out, please show up. We do have a cash box up front, though, too. So
You're allowed to donate.
you're allowed to donate. We don't turn people away for that.
You
And
bet.
the shop is always
Open.
great to see. Yeah.
It is. All right, we got to take a break. You hear our music. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue our talk about the Craft Museum and the shows coming up. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. This is Alina's Lifestyles and More on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk.
Over the rainbow.
Welcome back to Alina's Lifestyles and More. We're here talking art. And I'm going to change the subject. We've talked a lot about the museum and all of that. But now let's just talk about some of your hobbies, what keeps you invested into art, why you guys are on the board. I mean, because those aren't jobs that you just choose. Well, you did, but you started and Dr. Robby started through the museum kind of as a hobby. It's just someplace that you like to go.
So Richard will be able to tell us a lot about his hobbies, and we know
He
that
does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff, but he loves photography, and it's really fun to work for the show because we have the questionnaire that Elena is waiting to get before the show, and I read it too. And then reading about all what each of the participants will talk about, it's really interesting to see. You get to learn more about them. So when I looked at what Richard said, I looked at all the artists that he liked, and every artist is a photographer. So we know that this is what Richard is all about, and it's really connects him to me because my daughter is a photographer and she's a renowned photographer. She has done a lot of photography for all the big magazines. Glenna Gordon, she's been into to the National Geographic, to the Time magazine, New Yorker, to all the big magazines. She writes for all of them, and she even had a book about photography that I brought here today that was actually was one of the 10 books that Time magazine recommended to buy and to read to get for last year. And she does wonderful photography. Glenna, it means she's very artistic, and to see what she produces is unbelievable. So then this is actually, when I read all what Richard has written about all the artists that he liked, it was wonderful to see all the photographers.
Okay, stay on your mic.
All the photographer that he likes. So it's really interesting.
You're not on the mic.
So it's really interesting. So please, Richard, tell us about your interest in photography, your interest in art, and more about
On the mic,
yourself.
Bart.
More about yourself.
We'll get you there.
Thanks, Robby. I guess the question was a little bit about what is your interest in art? And I grew up in Chicago suburbs, and my mom did a lot of ceramics in her life. She wasn't a professional ceramicist, but she pursued art. She had a brother who was a professional artist. We would often go to the Chicago Art Institute, and there they have a fabulous impressionist collection, and you'd stand and look at this art. And I think as you compose photography, you go back to, as a kid, 8, 9 years old, looking at art, looking at great works of art, how people compose the scene. What is that all about? What works? And I think that influences how, when you pick up a camera and you look at a lens, how do I make something happen aside from just taking a picture of you? How does it look? So photography's been interesting. I collect a lot of art. I started that in the mid-'70s. Prints, original works. I have a little bit of sculpture, a lot of
Where do you keep it all?
He has a big place.
I do have a nice home that displays it well, and
good.
I'm out of wall space, unfortunately. So, but it's exciting. I would say many pieces that I own are artists, local artists, or artists I know of, and just have a relationship with.
Now,
which
do
is
you
fun.
do any, painting or drawing, or are you specifically more just eye camera?
Oh,
No, he's very proud to show his own photos.
It's photo.
I
I know. I
photo
saw
camera.
them. They were beautiful.
I took there's a cartoonist art teacher named Linda Berry. Maybe some of your viewers have heard about her. I heard her on National Public Radio, and she teaches a class at the University of Wisconsin to non-art majors. And I have her syllabus. She sells the syllabus. I got that. And it's all about cartooning and drawing. So I've taken up my hand at drawing a little bit. But believe me, it's cartoons. But it's fun.
Cartoons are hard. I tried just drawing stick people, and I couldn't even make them look fairly
I
good.
barely got beyond stick people, but that's where I'm at.
I mean, I'm a makeup artist, and I could, I can do beautiful makeup, hand on painting faces, but I can't paint hand to paper.
But talk a lot. You guys could talk about color, texture, form.
Oh, yeah.
How that all fits, and
It
it's,
does.
as you begin to feel that, whether it's decorating a room or painting a room or doing a piece of art, it's what comes through you a little bit, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting
you're
because
right.
I look a lot at the photography that my daughter is doing, and I said about the diagram of the art, the book that she does. So when I concentrate on looking at what she's doing, and I want to see what is special about it, is to look at the angle that the different artists take the picture, to look at the lighting that they do, for sure the subject, but the angle and the lighting are really important in every photos. So this is really special what every photographer can do, and this is different between the professional photographer who will look and get the exact light, the exact angle, and the interest in the photo compared to the amateur photographer.
No, it's exciting because as you interact and learn more about photography, I've taken some classes. I worked for 40 plus years for a construction company, and we had our marketing development person, a wonderful lady who had her first degree was photography. And I learned a lot from her about how she photographed buildings, because the classic way is to stand back, get your wide angle, and shoot the whole building. And she would just grab little interesting details of the building that are exciting and enriching. So
That's
I mean,
kind of what the photos you showed me were.
yeah, a little bit. Yes.
little bit,
No,
yeah.
she definitely impacted how I see and look at architecture, for instance. So
Do you travel the country or the world doing photographs of architecture?
I have, yes.
I figured.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not extensively. I don't travel like Robby, but
I travel to all the
I've
art
been
show
to
everywhere.
Montreal, up to Seattle, Vancouver, just recently this year, and last fall, Hong Kong and Tokyo, which was really exhilarating.
Wow.
Excellent.
All right, let's go
Let's
on
go
to
to
Sonia.
Sonia. We said it
Let's
together.
say
We said it together.
All right, Sonia, let's talk about how you got into, the art and any specialties that you're into and anything you want to talk about. Because this part of the show is what I really like is, the off the cuff stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I found an interest in art history relatively young, and that's what I studied in school. And I took a class on exhibition design when I was in college, and that was it. I decided that I wanted to work in museums for the rest of my life, and that's what I've done.
What other museums have you been worked with?
I've worked at the LA County Museum of Art.
Big one.
I've worked at the Autry Museum, the Vincent Price Art Museum. I helped to found the Chinese American Museum, Morono Kian Gallery, which was a contemporary Chinese art gallery. And I've worked at the California State Summer School for the Arts Foundation, as well as the LA County Arts Commission. So I've worked for lots of different arts organizations and
how long have you
consultants
been
and
at
things like
Craft?
that. I've been at the Craft and Folk Art Museum for just over 2 years now.
I think you're going to stay there for a while.
I think I'm going to be
Yes,
here
it's a
for
wonderful
while.
place. It is a wonderful
It is.
atmosphere. And we talked about our Chinese connection before when we were driving here, because I have some of my family members that
Yes.
Okay, Robby,
came
stop
from
looking at the
China.
paper.
They
Just stay in front of your mic.
Came from China, and they all live in Monterey Park. But we have also in Chinatown on Saturday night the King Chow Road with several art galleries. Do you ever go there?
I don't go there very often.
Yeah.
The neighborhood's definitely been changing over the past 10 or 15 years. Yes, I was telling Robby that my background is, my father's from Hong Kong and my mother's from Cantonese, but from Burma. And I grew up out in the valley, and there's 3 of us that work at the museum that are from the San
Valley
Fernando
people.
Valley. So it's and so I'm an LA native too, and it's been wonderful to be a part of this museum that has been working a very long time to nurture LA area artists and to also offer a different perspective on what's happening within the arts community. When people ask me, well, what do you show at the Craft and Folk Art Museum? And I always say contemporary art that's made by hand.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
We-
because you don't always see that, or you don't. I mean, they do have it at LACMA, and they a little bit at MoCA, don't they? Still,
No, Mocha, they have a lot.
they have
yes.
a lot, but it's different.
It is.
This is
We're-
more folky. I have a lot of folk art in my house.
Yeah, we're looking at artists who are using what are thought to be traditional craft materials, or
Which are what?
well,
When you say traditional, what do you mean?
well, typically one would think of the fine arts as being painting and sculpture, photography, works like materials like that, or mediums like that, those kinds of disciplines. And we're looking at artists who use all different kinds of materials. So maybe they're making sculpture out of rope, or they're making, textiles out of plastic bags that are woven together, things like that. So, our upcoming show is a good example of it. For instance, where we're looking at an artist who makes a chair where the body of the chair is actually a synthetic kind of nylon bag material. And when you get the chair, it's actually in the shape and size of a bag. But you pull the fabric out and you stuff it with whatever you've got. And that's how you create a chair.
Wow,
So it's
that's
already
really
cut
cool.
to the shape of a chair, but it folds up down into a little bag. So in case you're traveling, like crossing a border from one country to another, you've got a bag that's actually a chair.
And there was another, when we look at the picture that come from the museum, there was another interesting picture that if we talk about the chair, half a chair and half a table. Can you talk about it?
Right, sure. Yes, that's an artwork by Tanya Aguiniga, and that work really.
Okay, you need to come up to your mic too,
Oh,
not
sorry.
look at the paper.
So Tanya, I think, is Tanya Aguiniga, who's from Tijuana and who lives really on both sides of the border here in Los Angeles, and her family's there in Tijuana. She's constantly moving back and forth. And the work, I think, speaks really to that psychological space that the border occupies, where one lives part of the time on one side and the other part of the time on the other side of the border. So having that split, being a person who traverses that split on a regular basis, and for her, that split, that border, becomes a space in and of itself, where you don't have two halves, where you have essentially 1 + 1 = 3. It's a different
interesting.
space that encompasses both sides.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was a thing that really caught my eye for
Yeah,
right
it's a very
away.
poetic piece.
So, Richard,
It's very
what caught
poetic.
your eyes in the show that's coming up?
I especially like I think the work. There's a architect artist who teaches at Berkeley, and his name escapes me right now,
It's
but it's
Ronald Rael.
Ronald Rael, and he's done a series of 8 schemes for the border wall, and he's done little like snow scenes like you get when you used to shake up Santa Claus, but has 8 of these scenes, and they've replicated these same scenes into really wonderful pieces of art. They have different titles. One's called Cactus, would be just a cactus wall. They have one that's Teeter-Totter, which again,
That's the seesaw.
Seesaw, which
Yeah.
talks about the separation and back and forth, and is it a way to get over or cross the wall? Again, very creative, very interesting aspect of how people look at the border and what it means to them. It's, as we know, living in California, the California-Mexico border is a vibrant place, a lot of activity for a long time, and so it's good. I guess in the hindsight, we started planning this show 2 years ago, thanks to the Getty. Big thanks to the Getty. They're very generous with not us, but over 70 organizations, and it's a highly coordinated effort to really tell a message about what that Hispanic art means to America and what it means for a long time. And uniquely, we landed on a place to look at the border, especially at a time when we have somebody who wants to build a border wall. So it's interesting to be able to make have conversation in a different way than just saying what is said. But I'm very happy that we're going to do that. I'm excited to see the show.
When does it start? When are you going to start installing it?
Now, it's happening now.
Oh, it's how. That's why you're saying.
It's happening now, yeah.
So is the museum open now?
The shop is only.
Okay.
The store is only open, but beyond that, it's pretty well closed.
Okay, I thought that's what it
Right.
said, like on the website. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yes.
Because I was on it late last evening. I wasn't sure if it was just saying closed because it was the evening or it was
Right.
closed because you were putting in a
Right.
new exhibit.
Yes,
On
we're
some
installing.
shows we've had, and not often, but we've done a year ago when Gronk was installing, he did his Theater of Paint.
Yeah.
We actually did an artist talk during installation, the last week of when it was pretty much in place, but Gronk was generous enough and proud of what he did to walk people through, and probably had 20 people or so at
Okay,
that
stay
talk.
in your mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came to that show. It's interesting. I have a story about Gronk, another thing. But the seesaw scheme, it's really interesting because I was involved in another project. I'm very active in the peace movement. And there is also a wall that was built between the West Bank and the Israeli occupied territories in Israel. And about 8 years ago, I met a guy that came here. He was an artist that used to live in Newport Beach, and he came with the idea of creating kites for children on both sides of the walls, and he said that we will send a kite with a special writing from children from Israel to the people in Palestine, and from the Palestinian children to the people in Israel. I met this guy and I invited him to one of the activities that we had. This called Cousins Club, which was Jews, Israelis, and Palestinian and Arabs that got together, and it was really very, very interesting. And I said to him, you know what? Let's try to bring it really to LA and to do something. And he said, what should we do? And I said, I have some friends in LA. At the time, we were living in Irvine. And we went to 3rd Street Promenade, and there was a lady, Sue, that was working very much in the peace organization. And she said, let's put a table on 3rd Street and tell about it. Good enough, one of the owners of a lot of the building on 3rd Street walked by, and he decided to sponsor it. And this is how it started. And he actually created a whole dinner and fundraising in the Getty Museum, in which we collected more than $200,000. And this is how we funded this whole project. It started just with talking about things from both sides of the border. So when I saw the seesaw, I said, wow, this reminds me of this project too. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And talking about...
Keep going.
I came to his art talk then, and we became friends on Facebook, and we talked a little bit. And just a few months ago, another artist wrote to me, he's a friend of mine, that he's a friend of Gunk, and he would like to get to know me. He's an artist too. His name is Alex Perez. It was very interesting. I knew an artist in downtown LA that his name is Alex Perez, and I thought, this is the guy. And we just wrote some messages back and forth. And then a month ago, and without taking anything into consideration, a month ago he told me, he wrote to me, he said, I'm going to have a hip surgery. I said, I hope it will be okay if you need any help. So last week he wrote to me, can you come and bring me some Middle Eastern food? I really like Middle Eastern food. I'm in recovery. So that's the day. So I went the other day and brought him. And I was sure that it was the Alex Perez, the artist that I knew from downtown LA. And it was somebody completely different. You remember I told you I'm going to see an artist. And I didn't put two and two together because he didn't have a picture of him on Facebook. But we just talked about art the whole time. And I said, okay. So I came and I said, well, never mind. I bought Middle Eastern food to this artist. And it was really funny. It was somebody that I didn't even know.
But he was an artist.
Yeah. And this was the interest that started actually in the craft museum. So I just got him the food.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So I want to ask some questions. What kind of, starting in the fall, so I guess you'll be back into full swing September 9th?
Yes.
What kind of workshops are you having? Do you know in the month of September and October?
I don't know off the top of my head for the month of September, but we are actually going to have the last weekend in September. I believe it's Saturday, September 30th, and Sunday, October 1st, we're having Clay LA. And Clay LA is a sale and benefit for the museum. And we're going to have almost 24 makers and artists who work in clay and ceramics.
Wow.
Coming to the museum, and they're going to set up tables and have essentially their own little pop-up shops, and people will get to meet the artists and makers. And proceeds.
So would that be a Saturday and Sunday?
It'll be a Saturday and Sunday that last weekend in September. And this is the first time we're doing Clay LA for 2 days. And
because it's been so successful.
It's been very successful.
And this will be the Biennale of the clay.
It's not going to be the Biennale, but what it does signal, Robby, is the fact that we're going to be spending we're going to be providing a lot more opportunities for people in the community to interact with us and get their hands dirty with clay and ceramics. So we've got Clay LA coming the last weekend of September, and in January we're going to be presenting our very first ceramics biennial, and that will take up the entire museum. So all of our exhibition spaces will be featuring ceramics artists.
Okay, what are
Wonderful.
you
Tell
going
us
to
more
do?
about the ceramic and the kiln that you got and everything.
Well, that's the third thing that I wanted to mention in terms of ceramics at the museum, and we've got a wonderful lead grant from the Wingate Charitable Foundation, and they are helping us to create an inaugural ceramics program. So we're going to have our own kiln on site at the museum, and we're going to have a full-fledged ceramics program. So we're really shifting into gear with ceramics at the museum, and we're very excited about it. Andres Payan, who is the curator of public engagement at the museum, has his background in ceramics, and so he's bringing that extra layer of programming to the museum's current roster of programs. So we're really
which is a
adding
wonderful
lot.
thing, because till now there was not any place in LA that was really specific for ceramic. There was in Pomona, the ceramic museum, that they have the second Saturday of the month, their art walk, which I used to go every so often. And there are several places, big places in Santa Ana that do ceramic, as well as the Barnsall. But this will be really special and specific for this, the Craft Museum and the Folk Museum.
All right, what are you going to do for holiday season? Do you have any idea yet?
Yes, we're going to have a holiday marketplace. We haven't decided on the date for that just yet, but we will have a holiday marketplace, and
What does that marketplace mean? Things for sale?
it does mean things for sale. So
Shopping.
we're going to have lots of items for gift giving that are going to be perfect for gift giving around holiday time.
Because people are already, Christmas is coming in the stores already.
Yes.
And people are starting to think about it now.
Sure. Yes. And we plan to have artists and makers be part of that as well. So we'll have pop-up shops at the
Those
museum
are
as well.
becoming very popular.
They are. Well, you know what? As people become more and more interested in things that are handmade and things that are one of a kind, that certainly helps to raise public awareness and public interest in what we offer. And that does include the shop, definitely, not just our exhibitions.
And you can, if you can't get to the museum, you can see the shop online.
Yes, that's true. So our website again is www.cafam.org, CAFAM.org.
The website's very easy to navigate.
Yeah.
It's very easy to
and
navigate.
if we talk about the store online, you can
Okay,
say,
Dr.
we
Robby.
can say also the auction that we are having for the gala is
Yes,
also
that's
already
true.
online.
That's true.
Yeah. So
That's
tell us
true.
about that.
Well, as I mentioned before, our gala is going to be taking place on Saturday, October 14th. The silent auction gala will be online starting October 7th. So we hope you'll take a look and put a winning bid down on some new artwork.
All right, so right there we're going to take a break so people can think about that. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will continue this conversation. We were just about done. We only have a half hour left. So everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. This is Alina's Lifestyles and More on LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk. Welcome back to Elena's Lifestyles and More. We've been talking with the Craft Museum, Craft and Folk Museum for the whole show. So let's go back to Richard. Let's kind of start to give an overview again of what's going on at the museum, because we only have like a little less than a half hour left. So people kind of come in and out throughout the show. So I'm going to hand the mic to you. And
Sure, thank you. We talked a bit about the ceramics program being expanded and broadened. I would just say that also complements a really broad variety of other art making opportunities. We have a very excellent people who teach printmaking, and the printmaking is fabulous. Is always fun. There's craft nights the first Thursday of every night. So there's always, again, over 90 opportunities to make art, whether with your kids, your friends, or your parents.
Okay, do you go to any of them?
I do.
We all go.
I think part of being in touch as a board trustee, I'm very interested in outreach to the community, knowing people, really understanding what your customers like and what you do. And there's nothing quite like learning how to make an artistic button.
Oh, I would like that because I love buttons.
Yes, it was a great. Or what is the name for the little book? Zines or zines?
Zines.
Those are really fun to make. And again, they complement. We had a show on LA Art Books, which was an incredible show. It's an amazing show.
And what time are they on Thursday nights?
Start at 7:00.
Okay.
And there's always plenty of pretzels, maybe chips and salsa, and beer. And people seem to be more creative with a good bottle of beer. I found, and I go half 4 times a year, but it's great. It's great to sit and meet the people that enjoy the museum. And again,
so it's every Thursday night?
No.
One Thursday night
a month.
A month.
First Thursday a month. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say every Thursday they couldn't do that.
No,
it's the first Thursday of the month.
But it's really a lot of fun, and it's fun. Again, you scratch a little bit of your creative juice, Elena, that I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Very good. So
but they have things like, besides just this once a month, they still have things throughout the whole month,
workshops.
workshops.
Yes.
Don't you have them almost weekly or
pretty much? Pretty much. I would say pretty much, because Sonia said we have over 90 opportunities, and that's 2 a week, right? If my math is right, or close.
Yeah. So let's ask you, Richard, also, what is the importance of art in today's environment? What do you think about that?
Again, growing up, you think a lot about it. It has a lot to, why would I want to serve on a board? Why would I want to be on the Craft and Folk Art Museum board? It's a very unique place. It means a lot to the LA community. The LA art community is so vibrant and wonderful. I just know from myself personally, having been around art and artists, it's inspiring. You feel better about yourself. You learn something. For example, we had some Alaskan artists at a show probably 3 years ago. Native American artist, Susie Saluk, a wonderful carver, and she lives on St. George Island, 75 miles from Russia. And her pieces are just masterful. And she carves out of walrus tusks. And I was standing with Susie and say, Susie, I'm an engineer, right? How do you design this? Do you lay it out? What do you do? Do you do sketches? And she said, Rich, I can buy tusk on the island. I'm allowed to because I'm a native. I said, yes. She said, and I buy a nice tusk and I just start grinding. And I go, what? And her work is very figurative, very much a place in her heart about what it means to her and how it is. So again, it's a view on how people work, how people make, and why they would do it. It makes us more human, I think.
Yeah, and this is what you should talk more about, how it impacted your life, all this art and being in the museum.
Robby.
All the art and being in the museum, the impact on your own life.
It's, as an engineer, you can tend to add numbers, build buildings. You can be very black and white. This opens up your creative side. I think it helps you reach down as a person, more empathy. We're not talking spirituality today, but it's certainly a spiritual experience to see.
Spirituality is
She likes
important.
it very much.
Yeah, that's a big part of people's lives now. It has to be. So
Should be,
It
right?
should be. So going to the museum, I could see where the spirituality would come in. Did that work for you?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that what you're trying to say?
No, I mean, I walked the Betty Saar show, which we just had, is a wonderful work. It opens up on the front page was a poem by Langston Hughes, the very famous African-American poet and writer. And it's like you kind of, oh, wait a minute, this is very impactful. When you tear up reading at something like, oh my goodness, that's quite something. But yeah, it's.
So tell us more, like other art organization and museum, how do they make a difference in the life of every person and in the alleys in too?
I mean, that's a great question because I can only answer from a personal standpoint. But one of the reasons I do go to these art nights is to sit with people and see, and I ask, you having fun? What's going on? Do you enjoy this? And you hear everything from, this is great. I get together with my friends. I learned something. Oh, it's so good to go see the galleries and to see what's going on. It's just exciting to me. And I was blessed, I guess, when I grew up. We got to take arts classes in school. We had music classes in school. It was kind of what you did back in the 50s and 60s. Now, it is not as common as you can today. And I also know we have arts programs that outreach to high schools and kids. It's so important to them. It's who you are as a person. It helps you become a whole person and not just
Black and white.
Very
Black
good.
and
So
white.
let Sonia tell us a little bit more about the same thing and about how CAFAM makes a difference in the life of people here in LA.
It's one of the things that I like most about my job is that I get to work really closely with members of our community and literally our members. And I know all their names by heart. And so when I'm working at these programs, I get to meet them in person. And one of the things that, one of the most common things that I hear from our members is they love coming to the museum, they love supporting the museum and coming to our programs because of the way the museum makes them feel. And so there's nothing that can replace the time that's required to build relationships with people. And when you offer them a place to be creative and to commune with other people that want to make time to be creative, that can be really powerful, and it builds community. And so that's something that I think makes the Craft and Folk Art Museum actually pretty unique. We think of ourselves as a place to see art and to make art all under one roof. And one of the results of that, of being a place that offers those two activities in conjunction with one another, is that we create community around creative activity. And we try to ignite that for everybody that comes through our doors, to ignite those creative expression for everyone. For us, we know that we can, as makers and as art enthusiasts, it's important for us to be able to provide that to people where they can, they can have a safe, fun place where they can explore creatively. And oftentimes, the activities that we provide are very much tied into the exhibitions that are being presented. So they can go upstairs and be inspired and come downstairs and out into the courtyard and try it themselves.
Wonderful.
I have a question. I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about how good it is for families to come with their children, because that's really, really important. Because
The museum is a great place for families. First of all, we're an intimate museum. We're smaller, so we're not a gargantuan institution that feels corporate. We're not a giant cave of a place. We're a smaller museum, so it's very doable in just 1 or 2 hours, and so the scale of the institution is smaller and easier to navigate, and we provide lots of opportunities for families and young people to get together and make and to explore together.
Is there a family membership?
There are family memberships, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Family memberships start at $75.
No matter how many kids?
Yeah. It's for 2 adults and then kids 17 and under.
Wow.
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's a great deal.
That's a really great deal.
Right.
And you know that you help something by becoming a member of the museum.
Yes.
How many members do you have about?
We have over 600 members now. And we had, I think about 6 years ago, we only had about 300. So
it's doubled.
yeah, it's been growing. And,
I think
we
there's
have,
so much interest in handmade art.
there really is. And
I think everything's kind of going in that direction.
definitely. And we're benefiting from that kind of public awareness, that growing public awareness. And, it's also important to recognize we have a really tremendous programming staff. And I'd mentioned Andres Payan before, our curator of public engagement. We also have our exhibitions curator, Holly Jerger, and she's been doing a really wonderful job at creating provocative and interesting exhibitions that are really bringing salient, relevant topics to the museum's exhibition program. And so, we've gotten a lot of really wonderful media coverage. And so it's really raised our profile. It's been amazing.
I'm so glad because I remember going there, I think back in the late 70s. And when they had the restaurant upstairs,
Yes.
which I loved. I used to go there sometimes just to go walk around quick and then go, with friends up to the restaurant. I know that that's no longer there.
Well, the museum does have a long history.
A long
and
history.
There's a long history, and life has changed so much since then, and we have been changing along with it. And so we're very excited about our current exhibition program as well as our suite of programs.
But you've always kept your main feeling.
We have.
You haven't gone away from that crafty, feeling.
Crafty or creative.
I mean, the whole creative, but things that are more handmade.
Definitely. And we're continuing to expand what that means and to explore different facets.
Well,
of handmade
30
creativity.
years ago, you weren't making things out of plastic.
Right.
Or making things out of bags. That was never thought of.
And
Up to your mic if you're going to
yes,
talk.
and let's talk more about the artists. We talked about Betsy Saar, and let's talk more of the artists that have been showing there and will be showing there. Because it's really interesting that what I want to say is that preparing for this show is wonderful because I get to know the people that I'll talk to them more and more by reading the questionnaire about the artists that they like and what they like. And it's really interesting to see, as I mentioned before, reading about Richard with all his artists that are all mainly photographer. And then Sonia, that she divided the artists that she liked to Eastern Chinese influenced artists, modernists and American modernists, and then contemporary artists, etc. We have a lot of artists that we like in common, artists that really impressed me and influenced me as an artist in my life, from Anish Kapoor to Kusuma to other artists. So tell us more about, we'll start with Sonia, about the artists that influenced you and the artists that you were influenced, that were involved in the museum also.
Well, one of the things that I appreciate most about studying art is that you get to recognize that there are many different perspectives and there are many different ways to see the world that we live in. And when you look at the history of art, you get to see kind of a history of ideas and a history of perceptions. So some of the artists that I mentioned to Robby that have influenced me are Sonia Delaunay and Zhang Hongtu, Joseph Cornell, Xu Bing, Saigo Chang, European modernists like Monet and Gauguin, Caillebotte, Klimt. I'm also interested in many contemporary artists like Nick Cave and Sebastião Salgado and Emily Jacir, Kehinde Wiley. And you know, you can see it, how eclectic that list of artists is.
Yeah, it's really eclectic. And you know what? It's always fun because, like, you know what Gauguin does, what all of these artists do. But you know what I do? When I talk to any, or I read any of the questionnaire that I send to the people that we interview, I decide, I have to look again at the artists that they like and it really... not that I don't know what they do, you know, everyone probably know a lot of these artists, not every artist, but a lot of these artists. But the day before, I go into Google Images and I click on every artist to look again, and it gives me the picture of every person that will be involved. And it's really wonderful picture. So we talked about Sonia, and now we'll talk about
Robby,
Richard.
back to the mic.
And we'll talk about Richard, who talks a lot about photographer that influenced him. So tell us more about those.
Well, Robby's question to me was, who influenced you? And again, I'm not an artist. I'm not a professional photographer. But if I would say, what is my art, it would be photography. So that's, again, why I listed so many photographers.
And how many cameras do you have?
Too many. But I have 2 or 3 film cameras, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 digital cameras.
Did you have a hard time switching from film to digital? Because I know a lot of photographers did.
I did not. It's probably still a bane in that you tend to take too many photos because it's so easy. It seems so easy. And
Do you still shoot film?
I do not. I haven't shot film for probably 2-3 years, but I know people that do. There's purists. But the new cameras are such complicated computers that my last camera, I need to go to Sammy's where I bought it, and they have a class I can take to learn how to use it.
Well, you can almost walk from where you live.
Yes, I can. but many photographers, again, style, technique, what's good, what's not, and what are you trying to do yourself.
Do you shoot any beauty, or do you just strictly shoot
just when I'm taking a picture of Robby.
So you strictly shoot architecture then?
No, architecture. I've been drawn to take a lot of flowers.
Okay.
Yeah, flowers are beautiful.
Flowers,
And animals.
architecture, some animals, and family, and I like street scenes, and I'm really intrigued by street murals. I like, if I'm out in the city wandering around,
They would be fun to shoot, actually.
They're great. I mean, in Hong Kong, in Phoenix, they're everywhere. In LA, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new ones. I was just downtown. I was surprised at how many new ones I hadn't seen.
There is Alex One. Do you know the guy Alex Man One? He's one of him. Yeah, he's one of the first muralists in Los Angeles, and he organizes trips to see the murals in Los Angeles. He's a wonderful person. He has also his own gallery, and he's wonderful. So if you're interested in any mural, you should look Men One or Alex. Wonderful person to see his work.
Alex Poli.
Yeah, very, very good.
All right, we're going to have to close out the show pretty soon, so I want to kind of go around and kind of sum up what's happening one more time.
Okay.
At the Craft and Folk Museum, and just get your final thoughts and anything else you think you want to,
Sure.
tell the listeners.
Sure. Well, again, this is Sonia, and thank you so much for listening today. We hope that you'll come and join us at the Craft and Folk Art Museum. Our upcoming events that we'd love for you to attend are an opening reception on Saturday, September 9th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And that is our show called The U.S.-Mexico Border, Place, Imagination, and Possibility. Later that month, on September 30th and October 1st, we're going to have Clay LA, and we'd love to have you come out and
I want to come to
meet
that one.
the artists, meet the artists, and come and collect some ceramics. And then on Saturday, October 14th, we've got our Craft Affair annual gala, and that's from 6 to 9 p.m. And that's our annual fundraiser for the museum. We'd love to have you join us and collect some art at our silent auction that evening. We've also got on Saturday, October 28th, a day trip to Tijuana as part of the museum's travel program. We'd love to have you join us. And we've got lots of other things coming down the pipeline. So visit us at www.cafam.org to see our upcoming programs and to join our mailing list. Rich, do we have any other
Tell us, what is your
programs you wanna
favorite
mention?
event that's coming up? What do you want to tell everyone to come to?
That's a very hard question because, but I really think the show about the U.S.-Mexico border is really very important as far as what's going on. I think it's going to be very interesting to see 40 artists take in lots of different mediums about it is, and it's really part of a comprehensive look at art in Southern California and the Mexico border and Mexico around L.A., Santa Barbara, and San Diego. So that's exciting. Of course, from a selfish standpoint, I'd like everybody to come and support the gala. But that's not for everybody. And
It is for everybody.
it is for everybody. I'll be there. But I think more importantly, I think we're honoring Betty Saar, 91 years young. Her latest art that she's creating is informed by Black Lives Matter. Betty's an Angelino, grew up in Pasadena, went to UCLA, and I said, Betty, 91, UCLA, Pasadena, certainly you know Jackie Robinson. She said, the famous Dodger Hall of Fame baseball player, and she said, oh, yes. Jackie delivered our paper. He was a newspaper boy for us. I said,
Wow.
So it's a small world. Betty is a inspiring person to be around. To this day, she still impacts many local artists, and not just here, but around the country and around the world. Mm-hmm. And Betty has generously donated, I think, 2 pieces of art.
She has.
That are in our silent auction and will be available along with some other fabulous
So
art.
it's going to be a big silent auction.
It's going to be an important one.
And
I think
we
it's
said it
it's
will be
really
online before,
yes,
too.
yes. The Della Torre brothers, who are 2 brothers who do creative glass sculpture in Tijuana, who incredible. They have a piece or 2, so it's pretty exciting. Silent
And that
auction.
opens up when?
October, a week before. It'll be online.
Okay. So you don't have the exact date yet.
It'll be October 7th.
Okay,
That's
it
when the
opens.
silent auction
Okay.
will go online. And then the actual date of the gala where
it's the
people can
14th.
bid is the 14th.
Okay, but when does the show? Oh, but when does the Mexico? When does the
The
show
exhibition?
open?
The exhibition opens Saturday, September 9th. So it's
Okay.
very soon.
Very soon. Okay.
And it's funny that we have so many things in common.
All right. We only have 3 minutes,
yes.
so until we got
ahead.
to. So no,
Yes.
go ahead. Give your final thought.
No, the final thought is that first of all, the museum is so wonderful, and you really have a different feeling when you go there, and that's what I recommend to everyone coming, to be open to see something different. It's not to expect to see the Rembrandt and the Picasso, which are wonderful too, but it's a different feeling. So that's what I recommend for people to come to see, and they're involved in so many activities, the workshop, the lectures, and all this. It's wonderful. We just mentioned Betty Saar's 91. It reminds me of John Carroll's. That is one of the artists that shows in the Hollywood Sculpture Garden that she's 92 and she's still creating art, etc. And we wanted to bring her to the show, but she's 92. But on Wednesday, she's teaching a sculpture class, so she can't come. But we talk, Elena and me, that maybe one day we'll go to her house and do a podcast from there.
Yeah, I'd love to meet her. But I love all these women that are, in their 90s and still working. I think you have to
when you're an
keep,
artist, it really keeps you young.
but it keeps you young, and that's really important. All right, we're got to close out this show. Thank you, Dr. Robby. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Sonia. This was so informative. I think people forget about the craft and folk museum. It was one of the first museums I visited when I came to LA, and I haven't been back there in quite a while. So you've got me inspired to go there very soon. And
Please
I live
visit
very
us.
close. All right, everybody. I will be back next Wednesday at noon. Pamela Clay, who is singing our song, will be coming on the show live with Maestro Frank Fetta. I do a lot to do with music for children and for the arts, because people just don't get enough of classical in school or even don't take the time to listen to it. So I like to remind them how important that is. So everybody have a great week. Get outside, visit the Craft Museum, I guess online until the new show opens, which is only in like 2 weeks. Yeah, so you can plan your schedule. So everybody have a great week. I will be back next Wednesday at noon. Say bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where